I'm Pearl Boshomane Tsotetsi. I'm the editor of Careers Magazine, and this is July.
Hi guys, Bongani Chinkanda, a father of three, an entrepreneur, MD of Bravado, a youth specialist agency, but also founder of an entrepreneurial platform called Diaries of a Salesman. My passion are young people because I believe they're the answer to South Africa's problems, and also entrepreneurship, which I believe changes people's lives. And two lessons from today: stay in the fight, and we can only rescue ourselves because no one is coming to rescue us.
Bongani Chinkanda, hi.
How's it?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, and you, Pearl?
How is lockdown? I'm good. But how's lockdown and all the things around the pandemic treating you? Like, how have you been dealing with that?
So amazingly, for me, it has been sort of a transition. And really, it's been amazing in the sense that there's a lot that has happened. I've launched my platform called Diaries of a Salesman. I've started an agency called Bravado with the gents at Brave Group. I transitioned from being a CEO of one agency to an MD of another. All this in 3 months?
Yeah.
So it's really been exciting, but also it's been quite frustrating because kids are at home, they want to be out with their friends. There's anxiety around the numbers going up. One keeps asking themselves, when will it change? Is it going to change or until we get a vaccine? Clients are not spending as much as we would have wanted to. But then there's also the shift towards digital marketing and connecting with consumers on digital platforms. So I would probably say it's a mix, but for me, I'm taking it 70% good stuff and 30%, I don't like calling it bad. I think it's just challenging stuff, and it's the growth stuff that's in the 30%. Yeah.
So let's talk about Diary of a Salesman.
Yes.
What is that?
So Diaries of a Salesman, for me, it's an inspirational platform that I developed for entrepreneurs, suits in advertising, and also founders of SMMEs. I think what I found interesting, I was inspired because I failed in business in 2015. And one thing that I didn't have was the tools just to survive the failure process. And I like what John Maxwell says, that you can't have success without failure. But most people look at failure as final and failure as them as a person. And again, our coach Zig Ziglar, he says failure is an event and not a person. So how do we get content and get advice on one single platform, and that's Diaries of a Salesman for you. So we are on Instagram and Facebook. So that's one of my passions because I believe in entrepreneurship. But then my other passion is young people and youth. So hence Bravado. So it's the two projects going on at the same time. Yeah.
And so let's talk about Diaries of a Salesman once again. How exactly does it work? So if I'm looking for help, for instance,
yes.
How do I approach you?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is grow it. So we've got a website, and what we want to do is mentor 5 businesses. We're probably going to do it in August, and coach them for a period of 2 months. So I'll be dedicating about an hour a day, a business a day for 2 months, and just sort of see where people are, because people are at different phases in terms of business. So you find startups, people who've left work because of COVID-19 or who always wanted to start businesses. And then you find what we call failure to launch. So they struggling with growth. COVID has really hit them, it's hit their business model, and how do they pivot? And then we've got those that are coming back, people like myself. In terms of entrepreneurship, we're still scared, the scars are still there, but you're still passionate about it. So you approach us, you can reach out on Facebook, drop us an email. My email details are there, and then we'll reach out to you. Yeah.
And then Bravado, let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's flipping amazing. I light up thinking about that. So with the Brave Group, we've partnered. They own 50% of the business. And then my other partners, a guy called Dan and Nick, we own 49%. So for me, I believe it's true partnership in terms of ownership. and we're going to grow together. But what Bravado does is it's a youth specialist agency. And why youth specialization? When you think of South Africa, so we look at youth, we don't go the government definition route of 35.
Okay.
I think when people are 35, they're quite advanced in their behaviors. We look at about 29.
Okay.
And we look at tribes, so we look at students, we look at first-time earners, and then we look at the future employed. And what are the future employed? I don't like calling people unemployed. It just gives like a definite end to a person. So it's about future employed, and that gives you sort of power to keep looking and not give up, right? So that's what we specialize in, and it's about connecting brands, products, services to young people. I mean, when you think about it, 54% of the country is youth under the age of 29. Africa's median age is 19.3. The spend with 29-year-olds in South Africa is almost 300 billion rand. So there's a lot that you can take there. And then when you look at the cohort of 25 to 29-year-olds, that's where you've got your firsts, right? So people are normally having their first families, buying their first property, getting their first insurance, buying the renting for the first time, buying a car for the first time. So it's like firsts, and that we would want to understand. And I guess hence this discussion around careers is to say people are also some are getting into their first jobs. Others are already probably mid-career if they started working after matric. So they're still debating where they want to do. Maybe they started working at a call center and they've been studying long distance. And it's like, so what do I need to do now at 28? How do I start crafting my craft towards what I want to be? Right. So I think it's important to know what your passion is. I call it what makes your heart sing. You know. So for me, selling, being creative. I mean, we had a shoot today. I was just like in my element.
You're having a good time.
Exactly. So for me, it's about being in the area where your heart is singing.
Mm-hmm. In the past 5 years, because they do sound like they're quite eventful.
Yes, very.
What's the most important lesson that you have learned?
Stay in the fight. Don't give up. You have to stay in. Again, I like using the running analogy. If I ran my first marathon in January, and it was a loop, right? So the worst thing about running is when you run a loop. So you run 21 kilometers, and then you go again the same route. So you know that there's that hill that gave you pain, and you're gonna approach it. And I remember the pain at 30 kilometers, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like I asked my let me just stop. Like I've done 21 kilometers, let me go get a 21 kilometer medal, right? And I'm good. But I stayed in the fight. The last 12 Ks were very painful, and I got my medal, and it was so amazing. And I think what people do is they quit too soon.
Let's talk about 2015.
Yes. Geez.
What happened in that year, 2015?
Jeez. So it sort of started in end of 2014. My wife and I went to the US for holiday. It was great. We're running a business together. We had secured one of the big telcos as a client. And then in January, we were waiting for a big project. It was going to be millions of rand. And that telco decided they're going to cut spending. And we had overinvested in staff. They gave us a payout. Instead of retrenching staff, I kept going and kept believing. And I thought we were going to see it through. You know, I'd stand in the mirror and shout, I am a success, you know. And I was not looking at what's going on around the economy and what was going around the business. September 2015, I remember it very well, it was the 11th of September, we were looking at a house to buy. And there was a contract that we'd worked so hard on, and I believed it was going to rescue us. And the lady called to say, we're not working with you. And I remember I was like, this is it. The trouble is going to start tomorrow. And I was heavily in debt from a business perspective. I owed friends money, I owed family money, I owed the bank money, and I had to call it. I had to tell my staff, it's over. And I remember as well going to sell, we had a box of CDs under our bed, and going to cash converters because we were so broke, and we needed to buy food, and we went to sell those CDs for like 5 rand each. And for me, everything was in slow motion but moving so fast. And then I had to go work for a competitor. And this is a competitor that would beat when we pitched against them. And I remember writing a post to say the competitor had a basement where we would park. Every day I would leave my heart in the basement and I'd go up with my body.
Wow.
And there was this huge disconnect. And I didn't know, and I couldn't sleep. Like, I would sleep at 11 o'clock and be up at 1 in the morning. And that's a sign of depression, but I didn't know. And then there was a project at where I was working, because I was the head of department, but also new business. And I messed it up, and the client was shouting at me at night. And I remember going to Parkland Clinic because I saw psychologists and they couldn't help, and I was shaking.
When did you decide to go see psychologists?
I would see them in and out in 2015.
Yeah. Was it your first time?
It was my first time,
Okay.
right? And I remember somebody suggesting that I go to Akiso Clinic.
Right.
And they specialize in mental health. And I remember seeing a doctor there, and she looked at me and she said, "You're going to kill yourself. I can see it in your eyes." I couldn't sit down. I was like in a panic attack. I couldn't.
Right.
I would like stand and sit there, stand and sit, and I would just blurb. And she said, "We need to admit you today, otherwise you're going to kill yourself." I said, "No, I'll be back tomorrow."
Oh, really?
I'll be like, she's like, I can't force you, right?
Of course.
Then I said, fine. Then I went home, and then the next day I went back to work, and the project thing was getting bad. I was getting scared of my bosses. And I remember taking painkillers at around, I called Saga, the helpline. They tried to talk me down. I was like, I'm going to kill myself. I just wanted it all to end. I can't do it anymore. And I took painkillers. And as I was drinking them, as I was like drinking the water, I saw my 3 sons. And I saw them growing up without a father. And I was like, there is no way my kids are going to grow up to say our father washed out on us. In the process, I took antidepressants. So there isn't any shame in taking antidepressants. One thing that really, really helped me was my exercising, running. I fell in love with ironing, because what they say...
With ironing?
Yes. So what they say is that when you're depressed, don't sit.
Okay.
Keep
yes,
moving.
It's very easy to just
right?
sit.
So when you sit, you're overthinking.
Absolutely.
So keep moving. So I would clean the house, I would iron, I would clean again. I remember I think I had 200 rand, and we went to church, and my kids saw these donuts I used to buy for them when things were good. They're like, "Papa, we want these donuts," and they're like 40 rand. I think that night debit orders went off somehow, some charge went off. And I remember swiping, and like there was a queue behind me, and my kids had already had the donuts, and luckily they hadn't eaten them. Yeah. And I swiped, and my card bounced I swiped like 120 rand, and it didn't go through. And my older son knew that like Dad didn't have money, and I was like, "Guys, like we'll get it next time. My card's not working." And my older one was like, "No, it's fine. No, Dad's card is not working." And I was like, kids don't need to go through this.
Yeah.
But they have to,
Yeah.
Because that's what makes them strong.
Absolutely.
They have to see their dad struggling. They have to see their mom struggling. They have to see you fighting, staying in the fight. Because for them, they'll learn to stay in the fight, because they're not going to learn to stay in the fight from Steve Jobs, who they don't know. They'll learn to stay in the fight from you as
Right.
their parent.
Right.
Seeing you waking up every day. You can read as many books as I can. And when I look back, I saw my dad stay in the fight. I remember he was one of the top executives of a bank back home in Malawi, and he lost his job. And he used to drive, he would send my late cousin to go pick up fish, and he would drive in the middle of the night and then give my dad the car in the morning, and at 5 o'clock my dad would be at the fish market selling fish. And this guy was like a CEO of like Standard Bank, if you take in terms of consideration between the two markets. But I saw him stay in the fight. He showed me that you do stay in the fight, and if you're going to see it through my son, you have to stay in the fight.
You have to stay in the fight.
So for me, I believe that the things that you go through, sometimes are not for you. It hurts, but it's for people around you. It's for your test to be a testimony. You read that stuff when people post, you be like, whatever.
Sure.
But when you go through it, your test has become a testimony. People look. I look at what people are going through COVID-19 now. COVID-19 is like I see it because the numbers are out there. But for me, I'm living my life. I'm chasing clients and being empathetic with what people are going through. I'm not saying. There's a friend of mine. He posted. He's like, what people are going through is the worst thing. But guys, this is it. There is no one that's coming to rescue us. Like, there is no one. This is it for the whole world, right? So there's not going to be a point. The sad thing about it is that there was a point where this thing started happening.
Yes.
There was the first case in South Africa. There's not going to be a last case of COVID-19 and our lives will go back to how they were.
Right.
This is it. And we have to make sure that mental, and it's not easy. I mean, sometimes we're like, yeah, but you speak from a point of privilege.
Right.
I don't think it's speaking from a point of privilege. It's just, my dad grew up in the most poorest of circumstances, like he used to wake up in the morning and go bath at the river in the poorest country in the world, which is in Malawi. But he made it to be a bank executive in that country. And it wasn't because he was privileged. It's, you just have to tell yourself that this is it. Every morning you wake up and you fight. So you just have to wake up, tell yourself, you know what? I've lost my job, but what can I do? And if you're doing what you're following with what your heart sings, it comes to you.
I love that. Thank you so much. Two very important lessons.
Yeah.
One is dark but true.
Yeah.
No one's coming to rescue us, but you have to stay in the fight.
Sure.
Just like you did.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bongani,
Cool.
for your time.
Sure.
I was going to high five you, but I can't because social distancing.